Space Channel. I host a little show along with Teddy and Cynthia. It's called Inner Space. Out here in Calgary, it's weekdays at 4. Oh, some fans in the crowd. Yay! If you know way back, our show used to follow Fringe, and Teddy and I would debate various ongoings on Fringe. And Teddy would usually lose. At least that's how I remember it, anyway. But we got two very special guests who I'd like to bring up. We got a microphone set up on the floor where you can go and ask your questions, because I only prepared a few, assuming that most of you would want to engage in some conversation with our very special guests. You know them from Fringe, you know them from also Lord of the Rings, of course, and Thor. And Jasika, also a very talented artist, so let's get them both out here. Jasika, Nicole, and John Noble!
First thing we gotta
AJ, but that's okay. It'll work perfectly. So the first question I gotta ask you guys about, the news broke just the other day, season 5, congratulations. Dedicated following, but everyone knows it's kind of been one that every year, like, oh, I hope we get another season, I hope we get another season. So now you've got this 5th and final season. That's going to be a rewarding feeling, okay?
See, I do take care of it in real life.
Fringe has always had a really hardcore following, and it still has, but because of DVRing and other ways of accessing the show, it's not reflected in the figures. But fortunately, the network realises how popular it is, and they really don't want to put down a whole group of people like they did on Firefly, for example. They realise that how strong the fan base is, and I think they've made a really great move to this 13 to come home, because we can now finish the story, and it's so rare. Do you think?
I do.
She does.
Just another reminder, there's runners for the questions, but I got a couple more, but you can put your hands up and they'll come to you if you have questions on the floor. The show does have this passionate, dedicated following, despite all of the changes that we've experienced over the seasons, which we all enjoy. But what do you think is the special appeal of Fringe? Why does it resonate? Yeah, what is it? You know what word I'm going for.
I knew the word resonate.
Yes. Resonate.
Yes. I think one of the special things about our show is that every season it's almost like a completely different show. We've been to different timelines, we've been to different universes. John has played, 11 different versions of Walter throughout the past 4 seasons. Who knows how many more in the next season? So I think that it keeps people on their toes and they don't know exactly what they're going to expect. We've been successful at surprising people every single season, which I think is pretty hard to do.
Do you guys get surprised when you get the scripts yourselves, or do you have an inkling of theories as to what's going to happen next, and when you get the script and you're like, oh man, this is nowhere where I thought it was going to go?
Yes to both of those. Sometimes there's an arc going on, but I must admit that even with season 4, I didn't know what was happening. I seriously didn't know.
I think anyone did.
And I contacted the writers and said, I'm sorry, I don't understand this. And they were trying to explain it, and I tried to be intelligent and go, I don't understand this. But eventually, these writers are brilliant. They seriously are, and they take this huge risk every year to reset when everyone says, no, don't change it, keep it as it is. Well, the fact that they do that is the reason we're still here. It's good storytelling. They keep resetting as they will in season 5. But sometimes it takes us a while to catch up with it. And we also get the script really late. So we, oh my God, what happened then? Did you see what he did in that episode? You get to play your doppelganger. So, oh no. And you're new to the next one.
Well, let's let's talk about that amazing episode from this past season, Making Angels. That was a great episode for Astrid. What was that like? Yeah, it's fantastic. So tell us about the process of that. When did you know? What were your reactions? How complicated is it to shoot like that?
Well, I was super excited, obviously, because I kind of been waiting for a while to get, an episode. And Snakehead, which was in, I think, season 3, that was a really great and fun episode. But it kind of dropped off after that. It was like one episode that had some really great scenes in it, and that was the end of it. And so I was really anticipating, but I kind of had low expectations because I'm a supporting character, and I'm there to support, the big story, the love story and the familial story. And the show isn't about Astrid. She's a part of the show, but it's not about her. So, I was okay with it. I was kind of resigned. And then I get word, and John, he really does come up to me, and he's like, so, you gotta be with the doppelganger. I was like, really? What happens? And he said, oh, it's gonna be great. And so I got the script, and I must have cried like 5 times through the script. It took me so long to read it, because I was like, yes. And it was on a lot of different levels, because I thought it was a beautiful story between the two Astrids, but also for me as an actress who had been waiting for a while and hoping for an opportunity like this, so it was just really great. And the actual process of filming that episode was really hard, and it made me kind of appreciate the fact that we don't have those episodes every week. Because it's exhausting. The scenes take twice as long because obviously you're filming from one side and then the other side, and you're doing green screens, and you're having to match, the emotional level that you were at when you filmed it like 3 hours ago. And then for those crime scenes in particular, oh my God. But everybody in the cast was so supportive. I cannot tell you enough. Everybody was so quiet and really respectful of, going through that kind of emotional thing for scene after scene after scene, take after take. So it was everything I hoped that it would be.
And it's a sign of the esteem with which we hold Jasika. We've done 88 episodes, and I've never seen the company as supportive as it was that day, or those week and a half.
Well, we're going to get some questions from the floor in just a second. I wanted to ask you, John, being a part of the Lord of the Rings, everyone's eagerly anticipating The Hobbit. What do you think we're going to get from The Hobbit? Is Peter Jackson going to deliver again? This is an opportunity to basically say he's awesome, I think.
Peter will deliver, he's awesome.
Yeah. Well, what was it like then? This is a better question.
Thank you.
I'm a little nervous, big fan. Better question, working on Lord of the Rings, what is it like when you're in these sets, obviously, and, the most massive movies, some of the most massive movies that have ever been made? What was it like being on those sets and working in that condition?
I do think it's possibly the greatest movie trilogy ever made. The fact that it was locked away, the fact that it came out of the work of Tolkien, which was great literature to start with, that Jackson had a vision that sometimes happens once in a lifetime. We get these perfect moments. He assembled a team from all over the world and invested all of us with that same thing. So every person of the thousands working on that, I think, worked their their best. Now, how that happens, I don't know. What do you call that, a purple patch or something? When everybody just goes a step further. And I know that the actors used to talk about that sometimes. Like, this is amazing. You almost couldn't let the team down. And that went through all of us. It was an inspired, stuck way down the bottom of New Zealand so there were no distractions. Seriously. And I don't know that's an experience that would be repeated. I wouldn't be involved in The Hobbit because my character wasn't, but in theory I wouldn't want to. I don't think I could ever replace that experience in my lifetime. It was unique, and I think that just about everyone involved would agree with that. Thank you.
We all enjoyed it, no doubt. And we've got mic 3 on the floor. Right there with Josh. Hey, Josh.
So my question's for Jasika. Huge fan of the show. Astrid strikes me as almost too perfect. She's sweet and helpful and brilliant, and is just in the exact right position to perhaps be a double agent. Has the thought occurred to you?
That definitely occurred to me in the first 2 seasons when she wasn't doing a whole lot to move the show forward, and she was great, and she was also so forgiving, you know, when these awful things would happen to her. And so I had the same thought, and I don't have that thought anymore. I think she's too enmeshed with everyone. I think that would be a really great idea if she was a mole, but Royals ended up being the bad guy in the alternate universe, so I don't think that there's room for Astrid to be too, but I think it's a good idea.
Thanks for the question, Josh.
Thank you.
We go on mic 6, which is on our right with, oh, it's up in the bleachers. Carolyn is somewhere up there.
Over here.
All right, there we go.
You guys do such a wonderful job just playing the same character but different for the different dimensions and realities. So I'm wondering what that's like as an actor. How do you find it needing to play the same character but completely different? You both do it beautifully, but how do you do it? How do you find it? How do you work through it?
Good question.
No, it's a great question. It's also one of the things that keeps us happy on the show, because normally, if you get into something that runs a long time, you run the risk of getting stale. You know, you're continually trying to reinvent and stay in the moment. And I think Jasika was just referring to that in the first 2 seasons, just holding on, waiting for something to happen. For Astrid, what we've found is that it'll keep us very fresh because we're constantly inventing it. For example, when old Astrid came out of the woodwork, who was a genius creation of this one, with that autistic girl, I mean, what an extraordinary gift to give an actor to allow someone to take that trip. And Olivia, goodness me, you know, same girl, exactly the same girl, but such a different interpretation, and so it went. So we were, and I don't know if this happens ever to anyone, so we were so lucky to have that happen. And it keeps us fresh to pick up on it because I'm running out of steam.
I was just going to say, I think that Astrid, or that I have probably the easiest role playing the 2 Astrids because they're so fundamentally different. But the way that, in particular, John and Anna have been able to find these subtleties, you know, when they seem like generally the same kind of person, but when you see them on screen, they have completely different energies, and they had to come up with that completely by themselves. My lines are totally weird in between the 2 characters, so it's really easy to differentiate between the 2, but that's all I have to say. Thank you.
This is the Calgary Comic and Entertainment Expo, and you are a brilliant artist yourself, Jasika. So, do you feel at home here, and are there any other comics and artists that you're particularly fond of that might be here at the con, or are you looking out for art?
I don't feel at home here because there's so many professional artists who have been doing it for so long, and they're so good at storytelling. And I think mostly that I'm just super intimidated. And I don't really have the opportunity to go around and look at all this stuff because we're signing, but before when I've had the opportunity to look around, I just go with the I'm like a lurker. I just walk by the same tables and I'm like, that's so good. And then I just go around to the different tables, like I don't talk to anybody. I just feel like I'm so out of my element, you know what I mean? Like I just do my stuff on my part-time, but these people here are just incredible. So it's really nice to be around this energy, but I am not in that league.
Well, I would debate that. You can visit her website, it's JasikaNicole.com. It's really impressive stuff there.
Thank you so much.
We got another question on the floor, mic 4, and it's right here on the stage. Tyler is hanging out.
Mr. Noble, when you first got approached with Fringe, how did you develop the character of Walter Bishop? What kind of stuff did you draw upon?
You warned me about that, didn't you?
I did.
Okay. Yes, I did research it. It was very complex, so I would start with that. I had to look at a couple of things. I had to look at what type of mental illness, if any, he had. But mainly what effects, literally to research what effects the drugs have on you in the long term. I'm not going to go down that path again. Not really. So I researched it like a proper professional would. but also, effective electric shock therapy and all these things. So I went through all that and said, okay, this is the sorts of effects that impact on people. I also researched quite carefully how those few people in the world that are geniuses respond and how they behave. And there's literature on that. So I started to shape this complex character together and used that. It was pretty intense, I mean, it was really looking quite carefully at the background. There was also, he was a product of the 80s, where there was this type of research being done by governments here in Russia in particular, in Canada, where the best scientists were taken to these strange places and given endless money to do weird things like test people with LSD. And that's pretty well documented now, and Walter was of that, so I read really widely on that. It was a pretty thorough research, and I'm glad I did, because then having to pick up lots of different versions of it, having to do flashbacks to that period and flash forward from there, all that research in the beginning paid off for me perfectly. Thank you.
At what point did you guys realize the show was going to be beyond just the first set of characters that we're introduced to? Did you have inklings in season 1? Because there was that scene where Walter talks to Walter in the mental asylum for a moment. Did that, clue you into that fact, or did the writers tell you? Do you remember that moment when you thought, "Oh, this show's getting really deep"?
We didn't know that we'd go this far. We knew from season 1 that there was an alternate universe in some character. We knew water never existed. That was all we knew. Nowhere in our wildest dreams did we believe that we would cross over and there would be alternate versions of Astrid and Olivia and Nina. We just didn't imagine that. We probably thought Walter and maybe Walter's wife. That would be it. So it was the beginning of season 3 that we went to the alternate universe.
Or was it the end of 2?
End of 2.
End of 2, and it was like just an episode or 2 before we got those scripts that we realized we were going to go over there and see the whole world. And we didn't know anything really about how different the characters were, so we had a very small amount of time to kind of prepare and figure out how we were going to do that, because it was really a surprise for us.
Yeah, but it was, look, okay, these guys are great. They occasionally bring in a writer called Akiva Goldsman. Yeah. And Akiva comes in and he stirs the pot, he throws in these huge arcs. And they go, oh, we don't know what's coming. I promise you, we don't know what's coming. But it certainly keeps us alive. But as Jasika said, we'll sometimes just have a few days' notice on these major ships. The best one was, we did a music episode in season 2. All it was, are you ready? All it was production gets the phone. Can you go in and put down a tape at so-and-so sound, singing tape? What? Why would we do that? And I said, yeah, just go in. You're going to put down this. So we went in there. Isn't it funny? And then it turns out it's a musical episode. And they'd left the 2 best singers in the company, Jasika and Lance. They hadn't given them songs. So we said, we're going to make it a musical, you've got to give them a song. So they went and recorded it. It was hilarious. And then, we're doing a musical.
Are you going to sing right now? You got
Jasika Nicole show. That's what that means, except Jasika and I always make up musical versions of things. She's very naughty on set.
Somebody's projecting.
Very naughty indeed, I love it. So back to you, sir.
Back to me, I want to know more about this. We do have a question in the left bleachers from Dan. Now, is that our right or is that our left? There we are.
My question's for Jasika. First of all, I'd like to say I really love your website. I've been there.
Thank you.
I like your artwork as well. Could that be incorporated into one of the asteroids?
Oh.
That is a great question. And when we were doing season 1 and season 2 in particular, when Astrid wasn't doing a whole lot, she was kind of in the background writing notes, and I was actually drawing all the time in these notebooks that we had just laying around the set. And so at the end of the seasons, the props people would kind of gather all the notebooks together, and we would flip through the sketchbook that I had drawn through for 10 months or so. And at one point I thought, maybe her babysitting Walter isn't like actually providing any work to this lab or to the case. She's just doodling to get through the day and get home and have a glass of wine and be like, oh my God, my boss is so crazy. So I think that that's definitely a possibility. If that's going to be scripted at some point, I don't know. But there's been a lot of artwork incorporated to my characterization of Astrid.
It'd be kind of cool even if, you know, one of the investigations that the team goes on and how some of your work was featured on the wall or something like that.
No, I know. You know, there was one episode where Olivia is trying to remember a guy's face, and she draws this beautiful picture in a notebook, and I was like, since when is Olivia like this incredible artist? Not that that's bad, but it was just funny. So Astrid could have been the girl that comes and she's like, so how big was his nose? Yeah, that's great.
Missed opportunity. Look down.
Yeah.
We got one on the floor from Rob, mic 3, mid-floor.
Oh, nice costume, Rob. Oh, goodness.
Alright, so this is for John. I was wondering if it's you or the writers who are more coming up with the names you get for Astrid. If it's just kind of you and the other ones.
Rob, the ones that go to air are the ones they come up with. Have I said enough? We make up lots of other ones.
There's a whole list of names that don't make it to
But sometimes we throw one in the rehearsal just to see what the effect is. Like, oh, you can't say that.
Once John came up to me and he goes, is it okay if I call you Afro? Is there anything And I said, no, go right ahead. And he did it. And nobody laughed because we shoot in Canada. And they were like, everybody's so polite and respectful. It's the Canadian way.
Guys, if we go to another question from Connor on the upper left. Connor, oh, he's on mic 6, so there.
I've got a question for John Noble. You've done a couple of scenes where you have to take LSD and act really, really strange. How do you get yourself ready for that?
I think he's undercover, don't you? Come on, Connor. I ask others what it's like. I say to other nameless actors, what's it like being on LSD? And they tell me. Or research it on Google. That's all.
My question relates kind of to yesterday's panel. Denise Crosby was talking about how for supporting characters, particularly when the few lines they have are sort of techno-speak and don't really advance the character, she has to fill in the white space between the words in the script. So I was wondering how, for Astrid in particular, for that character, and for the supporting characters that you play, John, what do you fill in for the characters that isn't in the script?
It's so intelligent, isn't it? The white space. My God.
I like that phrasing.
It's Denise. I'm going to tell her what that is.
I know, she's very smart. That is a really great question. You know, for myself, it's really tricky to do that because as soon as I start to invent too much of a storyline, something comes out like in the next episode and it's like, oh, actually it's this. So when you have so few details to go on, you want to fill in that space, but then you don't want to have to like erase it all at some point. And I would run into that a few times in the first season where I was like, you know, trying to connect these little dots, and I had my own storyline going, and then I don't even remember exactly what it was, but then the script came out, and I had this idea that like, that Astrid didn't have a family or something, and that's why she had latched onto Walter and felt so good to have this person to kind of take care of and to take care of her too. And then it turns out she has a dad, and I was like, crap. I mean, that's great that she has a dad, but then you never got to see him, so then I didn't know what he was like. And so it's this really weird kind of line that you have to walk, not giving too much voice to something that doesn't have a voice, but still, having enough of a presence that's there. So I just really rely on the relationships and focusing on how she interacts with the people that she's in the scene with when she doesn't have a lot of other, stuff that, like you said, is moving the plot forward. And I think that ended up being this really lovely relationship. Like, I don't think that it was necessarily written that way, but John and I became friends off set, and that kind of bled into our scenes together, and we would, kind of riff off of each other and create these moments. And the writers totally ran with that. So I hope that answers your question.
Anything to add, John?
What Jasika does is, and I work with her on this, that if I'm doing something, I will constantly flick a reference to it. It's not scripted. That's what we've developed over 4 years. And from the beginning we said, let's be involved in the scene, because they weren't writing in specific stuff for Astrid. So we started from the beginning to say, Astrid would be doing part of the experiment with me. So we actually built that up, and as she said, we ran with it. And you've got to stay with it, because at some stage the camera might come across just to cut to you to see what your reaction is. You don't have to intervene to hold subtext, but you've got to concentrate all the time. And when I watch really great actors work, you can see them in the back of the scene, and they'll still be totally present in the scene. And I think that's what we have to do as professional actors, and what we try to do.
Yeah, Mike 5, for left with Corbin.
Hi, this is for John Noble. I've noticed in a few past episodes, there's 2 that were like in the far future, and I'm wondering how this will affect season 5, if you will attention to this. And I think you're like the best actor ever.
He's good with it. It's a great question. Yeah, thanks, mate. What we think will happen is that we've already indicated to our audience the way ahead by episode 19. In episode 19, we flashed forward 20-something years into a world with a common enemy, with observers around the world, and we became the insurgents. We believe that will be our season, our final season, will be the Fringe team having to fight as insurgents against this other power. I think it's a brilliant concept, and for the first time we'll be forced to unite and to defend each other and support each other against a common enemy. Is that the impression you have as well?
Yeah, it's almost like all the research and the information and the knowledge that they've accumulated over the past 4 seasons, they're going to have to use that to fight for their lives and for the lives of the universe. And it's going to be really cool. If you saw episode 19 and saw the flash into the future with the observers who are, all powerful and have totally taken that power and turned it evil. It's a really cool concept. And it's so great because the observers seem like these sweet little puppies when we first met them. They were so great and they knew everything and they tried to save Peter. And then something happens, I don't know what it is, but everything goes haywire. And so it's the Fringe team that has to go in and basically bring them down.
A piece of trivia. Some of you will know that when the observers drink water, they get drunk. Did you know that? Whereas people walk around with a hip flask of brandy or whiskey or something, they have water, man. It's so funny. It's trivia.
We got Mike 3 in mid-floor with Tom. Mike 3, oh, there's Tom with a red baseball cap on. Well, maybe not.
It's cocked, sorry.
Oh, different name.
Who's your favorite Walter? Crazy Walter? Mad Scientist Walter? Or Walter Nick?
I have an affection for the first Walter that we developed because he was so new and fresh. So, I mean, the guy that was born out of the asylum and the one that created relationships with Peter and Olivia and Astrid. And we saw him growing in confidence and fun. I like him. But I'm so pleased to have had the opportunity to play the other variations of him too. But I call him number one because we always sort of revert to him. I think he's the Walter that the fans initially thought was interesting. Is that right?
That's right.
Right.
That's the right answer.
Center floor, like 4 with Craig right there.
This question is for John. Through the seasons, you've had to play many different versions of Walter, as we've said. Is there any time that you feel kind of a sense of loss when you have to change personalities, as in season 4, and you had to forget Peter? Did you feel a sense of loss for the Walter that loved Peter so much beforehand?
Thank you for that question. It was something that we shared, Jasika and Anna and I shared a difficult time at the beginning of season 4 because one of the fourth member of the team, the fourth member of the family, was missing. And so and not only missing, but we had no knowledge of him. So we didn't have that, there was no, like, for Walter, it was like this poor man who was obsessive, compulsive, agoraphobic, locked in, still smart, but really not funny and not nice and sort of ugly, dirty. And he was being looked up by these two kind ladies, but only because he was very smart. There's no other reason. There's no affection. There's nothing. That was really hard. Do you remember that time?
Yeah, it was really hard, and I remember I had some issues with it just because I think that Astrid's placement in the show is specifically because of her relationship with Walter. That's why she's on the show. And so without having that connection to him, I felt a little bit lost. I didn't really know what she was there for or what purpose she was serving. And eventually, you know, as the story went on and then the Astrids got to meet each other, and I thought that relationship between, you know, those two women was fleshed out a bit more. But at the beginning of season 4, it was really weird for us, and we would talk about it a lot, actually.
We struggled with it, and I still don't quite understand it, to be honest with you, but I think we made an incredible rescue to come back. And I'm really thrilled, particularly the second half of season 4. But there was also some great individual episodes in the first half that I remember with great affection.
We're left with Jack. It's Mike 6.
Hi there, this question is for Jasika. Your performance as Alt Astrid was very nuanced and lovely. May I ask, if it's not too personal, was that derived partially from your life with your sister?
No, it's not too personal. Thank you for the question. And yes, in part. My sister is on the spectrum, but she does not have Asperger's, and alternate Astrid has Asperger's. My sister is she's a little bit lower functioning, so her communication skills are way unlike Alt Astrid's. But the one thing that I took from just growing up with my sister's 14 right now, so obviously I was with her as she grew, and she was diagnosed when she was 5. And the one thing that we always knew was different about her was her inability to maintain contact when she was trying to talk with somebody. And so I did my own research, and as I grew up with her and met people in her classes and stuff, I realized that that was something that was pretty prevalent in the community of kids, specifically dealing with autism. And so I thought that that would be a really neat thing to incorporate into the character of alternate Astrid, because she's always relaying this information. She has to talk to people, but she doesn't want to be social. And so I thought it was really cool if she goes to work and she's like, I'm doing my job and I'm great at my job, and I don't feel like hanging out and talking to you. And I really, I think that's such a cool quality in somebody, to kind of shirk, what's considered normal and just do whatever feels comfortable. And it feels comfortable for her to give you the information without looking at you, and then look at you, make sure you understood it, and give you some more information, and then look at you. And I got people to come to me and they were like, I thought alternate Astrid was blind or something like that. And I was like, whatever, not everybody has
John, this question's for you. Since you played Denethor and Walter, is there any special training you seem to be cast as crazy people in a lot?
Most actors will tell you that they'd rather play a bad character than a good character, and they'd rather play a complex character than a simple character. And both Walter and Denethor are incredibly complicated characters. So from my point of view, that's what I look and read for as an artist, is that complexity. We're all a bit mad, you know. Except D&D and even D. No, do you know that something? That doesn't matter. We're all a bit mad. I just look at people around. I look at my own family, I look at myself, and the behaviours that I find amusing, I just realise we're terribly funny. We're really nice. We're very funny people. So funny the way we react to each other. Not so funny is what happens to people when mental illness enters their life. That's not funny. It can be observed easily enough in the streets of our cities. So I use all of those aspects of it, but I don't know, mate. It's just variations of normal. It's not. You'd never go out to be insane. You couldn't, because if you were insane, you couldn't rationalise it. And you never judge your character either. You never say, I am insane, because very rarely does a person know what they are exactly. So you just try and play what they call the truth of the moment. It's sort of complicated in terms of acting terms, but there are ways through it. The last thing you do is judge yourself or call yourself a name. You just try and stay with whatever that character's reality is and the way that character's viewing the world, and suddenly you look like you're mad. Like I just did that.
Okay, we have 5 minutes left, so a few more questions. We're going to mic 5 in the front with Allison, somewhere to her right. Oh, right there.
We haven't seen a lot of Jean the cow lately. I'm wondering if you guys have any fun stories of working with her on set.
Yes. We love her. I love her.
I can't stand her.
But I make her work with me on that. I make her brush Jean, and she's scared of it because Jean is huge, hairy, smelly thing that poops all over the place. You know that cow.
It's a cow on a small set with like 100 people. So you see it on TV and it's like, oh, it's a cow, it's so cute and it's mooing. The mooing does not happen when it's supposed to. That's all ADR did. I know, I'm telling all Jean's secrets. And the cow poops and pees whenever it wants to. And it sounds like a bucket of water being dropped. And so you have to like clean your shoes off and get out of the way, and then your clothes smell like boo-boo. And it's like such a more exhausting experience dealing with Jean the cow than it appears to be on television. I like animals, cows are cool, but Jean is a handful.
That is so wrong. It's slanderous.
You're gonna see Jean's face on like TV Guide next to me.
Yes.
Like People magazine.
Or National Enquirer.
Yeah.
Jasika spills her guts about Jean the cow. Jean the cow is wonderful. And she does have personality. And she likes me more than you. That's the main problem.
That's totally true.
But she does know on cue. She would be sitting there shuffling flat and carrying on. And then someone will go, action, she goes, Mother Nicole. Don't try and act against her. I love her. I wish she was there every week with me.
Well, last thoughts on the fans who have given you these 5 seasons. You come to these conventions, you meet them, they say thank you. Is there anything that you want to say to the fans to wrap this up as we head into our 5th and final season of Fringe?
Yes, I'll start off and then you finish. There's no question in anyone's mind that without the very vocal fan support, we would not be here. We wouldn't have been here after 2 seasons. More so than any show I can remember almost. So if we have a 5th season, it's because of the fans. And I know that just from the dealings that I have at different places of the In fact, I think the fans know more about the show than I do. I really do, because sometimes they ask me questions and I go, oh, that used to happen to me with Lord of the Rings too. I go, people ask me, oh God, I don't know, I didn't read that bit. These fans and other people that have been in television for a long time say that the fans are Fringe. There's never really been anything like them. So thank you. The reason we have a season 5 is because of those fans. And over to you.
I just wanted to say that being a part of the sci-fi community is such a privilege because there aren't a whole lot of genres in film and TV and entertainment where you start off with a core group of people and you remain with that core group of people for like the rest of your life. And that's such a cool, unique opportunity. So I feel really lucky that my first TV show was with everybody that's here. And this is like set the precedent for me. So anything that I do after this, if it's not sci-fi, it's probably not going to be that exciting, unfortunately. So thank you guys for being with us from day one.